Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff, also the author of Revival, The Struggle for Survival Inside the Obama White House. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
The revelation that, wow, the rich are in fact spending money, but not to hire other people. Does that change the mainstream media and political narratives of America's wealthy, paralyzing the economy over uncertainty about tax cuts?
Well, it should do, because these are the kinds of stories, these conspicuous consumption stories that break through. They hit the mainstream audience in a way that, any amount of debate about tax policy or unemployment rates doesn't. But beyond that, there are a number of data points here that need to come into play. The giant corporate profits that we're seeing in the last quarter, the biggest on record, you have to factor that kind of situation in with the stock market picking up all of its losses since the financial crash and up, more than 60% since its low in March of '09. You put all of that stuff together, and this idea that Republicans have successfully propagated that businesses are being squelched by big government, by excessive regulation, has to be debated by Democrats. It's not just about tax cuts. It's a broader story about where the economy is, where businesses are, because unless Democrats win that battle, they cannot really fight about tax cuts.
But who's going to make that argument, particularly the one about the nonsense about tax cuts for the rich equaling jobs for everybody else, which is clearly untrue? Who is going to do it? I mean, it's nice to say Democrats should, but are there any of them who you've discussed doing this?
Well, the White House needs to principally tell a story about the economy. We saw the president in a much more of a campaigning mode about the auto industry. They feel like they've got a story to tell there, but they've also got a story to tell about how businesses have thrived under this administration. And that might sound weird to people who are expecting a different result from on the progressive side. It'll certainly seem weird for people who've lost their jobs, but if you're going to fight against the Chamber of Commerce, you've got to take them on their own turf. Defining it just as tax cuts for everyone and having that debate purely on that issue is really playing into the Republican hands. There is a bigger economic story this administration has got to get to grips with.
Well, all of this is also taking place in the context of this being the time before the huge bonuses hit. What are the politics of an industry bailed out, or several industries bailed out by taxpayers, getting obscene bonuses and using them not to create jobs but to buy themselves, 100 custom-made $75,000 Camaros in 3 minutes?
Yeah, this is the political opening for Democrats, because Wall Street is as unpopular with progressives as it is with the Tea Party folks. If you're going to do that jiu-jitsu move and take the drive for reform and change and pull it back to where it was in 2008, you've got to go after Wall Street. A year or two ago, Wall Street was saying, cut the conspicuous consumption, don't do these bachelor parties, keep your head down. This is an industry that feels liberated. It does not feel the threat, and to the extent that Republicans are cozied up to the Wall Street lobbyists, that's the opportunity that Democrats have right now, because again, these are the stories that break through. It doesn't matter what goes on CNBC. This is the kind of story that makes it to the Today Show and has everyone talking. The same thing happened in the early 90s.
These are the real Americans behind me, those brokers who all make six figures.
Exactly.
This was the central driving point of the president's campaign as a candidate, to reduce this obviously growing income disparity in America. How does he campaign for 4 more years if 2 years from now we're talking yet again about unemployment of 8–9%, but the Bafo sales in the Neiman Marcus catalog, and oh, by the way, maybe he reached out to talk and have a conference with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce again?
Yeah, I don't look. For a start, he can schmooze with the Chamber of Commerce all he likes. These people are still going to hide behind the anonymous spending and the anonymous advertising. I don't know that he ever campaigned against economic disparity. What he should be talking about is what's the most efficient use of government, most efficient use of tax dollars here. It's got to be to help people who cannot help themselves or who need that extra help up, not to help these guys who can buy the fancy cars.
MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff, great thanks for your time tonight. Have a good weekend.
Happy Thanksgiving, Keith.
Thank you, sir.